Same way, Benny still gets the platinum chip, still heads through Boulder City, betraying the Great Khans in the process, and still ends up at the Strip. What happens next? We know what Benny's plan was, and he still has Yes Man to do a lot of the behind-the-scenes work. Benny needs to head to the fort to upgrade the Securitrons so we can finally wage war against Mr. House. But Courier 6, he is not. The courier was invited to the fort to meet Caesar. Benny wasn't. He'll have to use a stealth boy to sneak in, and we know from a quest in New Vegas that his attempt was not successful. Benny is captured by the Legion and killed in one way or another. The Legion now has the platinum chip, with no idea what the hell it is. Because Mr. House has no way to get the platinum chip, if he even knows it's with the Legion in the first place, he can never upgrade his Securitron army. He's still an important figure on the Strip, but he is no longer a key player in the battle for the Mojave. That leaves us with the NCR and Caesar's Legion, since the smaller factions like the Brotherhood of Steel, Boomers, and Enclave Remnants are never convinced to join forces with one of the larger factions. A few important people are going to die next. With no knowledge of an assassination plot against President Kimball, the NCR president is taken out by the Legion. Shortly before or after that, Caesar dies because there is no courier to save him. Legate Lanius takes command. He's certainly a brilliant tactician, but he's no Caesar. A primary Legion belief was that Caesar was sent by Mars, the roaming god of war, to save humanity. Legate Lanius wasn't. The second battle of Hoover Dam has arrived. Both forces are suffering somewhat on a morale level after the deaths of their leaders, but as the saying goes, the war must go on. The NCR wins the day. Why? They have the numbers, tactics, firepower, and technology. The Legion are no pushovers, but because of the nature of their beliefs being based off of Roman ideologies, they're not really prepared to take on the might of a full-on army, especially with Caesar not being at the helm. As Shoddycast explained in a great video that I'll have linked in the description, with the death of Caesar, all the NCR has to do to win the Mojave is wait. The NCR and the Legion, that's big picture stuff. What happens in Good Springs or to the think tanks at Big Empty? The small scale shit. Well, I'm glad you asked. The courier isn't able to put together a militia in Good Springs, so the powder gangers raid the town, take it over, and kill everyone. The Boomers remain isolated and fearful of outsiders. The Brotherhood of Steel don't have someone on the outside helping them, so they also stay on lockdown for the foreseeable future. During the second battle of Hoover Dam, Legion attacks Camp Forlorn Hope, which doesn't end well for the NCR soldiers stationed there. The ghouls in RepCon cannot make their way to the basement without a wanderer clearing out the demons. With the great journey coming to a standstill, they eventually make their way out into the wasteland, wandering to whatever settlement will have them. Or, the Nightkin in the basement grow bold and wind up wiping out the Bright Brotherhood for good. Tabitha continues to broadcast atop Black Mountain, growing sadder and sadder without Rhonda's company. The NCR soldiers at Boulder City aren't able to reason with the Great Khans, which results in a short and decisive conflict between the two groups. The Khans die, as do the hostages. The Misfits at Camp Golf never get their shit together, so when the Legion attack during the second battle of Hoover Dam, most of the NCR stationed there will fall. Outside of the Mojave, at the Sierra Madre Casino, Father Elijah's planned heist never goes into action. He never makes his way to the casino's vault. Dean Domino, Christine Royce, and God and Dog remain trapped in the villa forever. In the Big Empty, the think tanks continue on as they were before the courier arrived, occasionally abducting wastelanders, conducting experiments, waging a somewhat trivial war against Dr. Mobius, and live in isolation out of fear of what might happen if they disable their sonic fence. In Zion Canyon, the battle between the White Legs, Dead Horses, and Sorrow's tribes reaches a boiling point. With no courier to save them, the Dead Horses and Sorrows prove to be no match for the White Legs, who use high-end weapons like brush guns and 12.7mm submachine guns. Joshua Graham also falls in the process, and the legend of the burned man goes out, with many not even knowing it burned on in the first place. Lastly, Ulysses waits patiently at the end of a lonesome road for a courier who will never return to the Divide. If he one day learns of the Courier 6's demise, it seems likely that he would attempt to re-establish a settlement in the Divide. Alright, that's going to do it for this video about what would have happened if Benny had killed the courier in Good Springs. If you enjoyed the video or learned anything, leave a like. Like many video game protagonists, Fallout 4's sole survivor manages to shape the world around them. The fate of the entire Commonwealth is left in their hands. But what would have happened if the sole survivor died in Vault 111? Several events still play out the same way if the sole survivor becomes an expired popsicle in Vault 111. Some residents of Sanctuary Hills still make it to Vault 111. Kellogg still gets inside the vault, kills your spouse, and kidnaps Sean. Whether Kellogg decides to kill the sole survivor too, or he just never makes it out of the cryopod, is irrelevant. Either way, the sole survivor dies. The Institute synths are created, perfected even, and rumors and speculation run amok all over the wasteland. With no sole survivor to help them, the Minutemen suffer heavy casualties in Lexington at the hands of raiders. Even if they're not completely wiped out, they won't have a place to call home. Maybe the few who made it out of Lexington head to Sanctuary. They don't have the numbers to really make it a place worth living in. It's only a matter of time before the Minutemen become nothing more than a wasteland myth. The Railroad continue to rescue synths as best they can. Without the help of the sole survivor, it seems unlikely that they will be able to get Carrington's prototype from the switchboard, as it was viewed as a risky mission even with the survivor's help. The biggest thing they have going for them is their secrecy. They operate in private, but not at the same scale as the other two remaining factions. Secrecy isn't enough though. When the survivor finds them, they had just lost the switchboard, their high-tech headquarters. They're living in the basement of an abandoned church. They've lost safe houses. Every day is another defeat. Eventually, those add up, and the railroad fades away. The Brotherhood of Steel still arrive in the Commonwealth to deal with the Institute, synths, and mutants without the sole survivor. Ignoring the Institute for a moment, the Brotherhood wouldn't really change that much. The sole survivor was just a paladin for a while. They can still get things done. They can take out the super mutant behemoth on the island near the Pridwin. They can secure the nukes. They can send initiates out to get a steady supply of food and water from local settlements. Where things change is with their war against the Institute. No sole survivor means they can't get insider information about them. They have a much harder time getting Liberty Prime operational again, if they can at all. Now there's the Institute. They were the dominant force in the Commonwealth before the sole survivor, and they will continue to be without him or her. Kellogg never has to die at the survivor's hands. The Institute, despite Father not being fond of Kellogg, uses him to get things done. There's nothing that the Institute really needed the sole survivor for. He merely took Kellogg's place. Who claims the Commonwealth really comes down to one thing: who gets the beryllium agitator first, the Brotherhood of Steel or the Institute? It is essential for getting Liberty Prime operational again, but it's just a helpful advantage for the Institute. Between the Coursers and Kellogg, there's no way the Institute doesn't get it first. Without the sole survivor, the Minutemen fade away. The Railroad, now going up against a more powerful Institute, face ever-increasing resistance when trying to rescue synths. The Brotherhood fail in their campaign to purify the Commonwealth. The Institute takes complete control over the Commonwealth. That's looking at the big picture, but there are smaller stories being told, like the Companions. No sole survivor changes things for all of them. Codsworth lives his life assuming his owners were killed, which they were. He'll do what he did before the sole survivor found him post-war, which is just surviving. He traveled to Concord once. Maybe he'll explore what remains of the Commonwealth until he's killed or he begins to break down. When we first meet Piper, she had been locked out of Diamond City. With no sole survivor to vouch for her, she'll likely find another way back into the city. But because Mayor McDonough already locked her out, it wouldn't be a shock to expect him to exile her from Diamond City permanently. The sole survivor doesn't exterminate the raiders in the combat zone, leaving Kate to keep fighting for as long as she can. Her addiction to Psycho will likely get worse and worse until it kills her, or she gets so desperate for more drugs that she picks a fight that she can't win. Curie remains isolated in the basement of Vault 81. She waited 83 years for someone from